Hello, and welcome back to more Films That Are Constant Critique, where we take a look at films, some good, some bad, and some downright awful. I'm Bongo Baikov, joined by our host Maverick, Dren, Zaria. This week we're bringing you the 2007 double feature, Grindhouse.
I guess this one's my fault. In which case, I'm sorry. Jesus. But hey, I rewatched Lion King and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory recently, so it balances out. not bad of a movie. So, Grindhouse was released on April 6th, 2007. It cost about $60 million and only made $25.4 million.
Oof.
So yeah, it did. Kind of surprising.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Kind of surprising considering some of the names here, but I don't know.
Yeah, not just the two directors involved, but like all of the actors that they got.
I know, yeah. So this is technically two movies.
Two movies and a few trailers.
Yeah, Planet Terror and Death Proof. And combined together, this is technically the longest movie we have done on the podcast so far.
That is true.
It is 3 hours and 11 minutes long, so we finally found a movie that made it over the 3-hour line. Although both movies were, released separately later. So there's also that. Planet Terror was directed by Robert Rodriguez, who also directed the Machete trailer in the movie. Death Proof was directed by Quentin Tarantino.
Which I guess makes that our first full Tarantino movie.
Yeah, because we did another one of their movies, From Dusk Till Dawn, which is directed by Rodriguez, but written by Tarantino. Do we have to get into who these guys are? I mean,
just some of the biggest directors.
We probably don't have to. Still waiting for 100 years, by the way. And the cast, I'm not even going to list the entire cast yet, because there's too many. We'll probably be here all day if we did that. And
It's insane, though.
Instead, I'm just going to list, who we have that's returning. At least for right now. Michael Biehn, who we literally just had, because we just did The Abyss.
On The Abyss.
And he was also in Aliens. Bruce Willis, I forgot he was in this.
Dude, I looked away for a second during the opening credits, so I didn't know Bruce Willis was in this movie until he showed up.
But yeah, Bruce Willis, who we had him in Armageddon and the Die Hard and the Die Hard movies.
Yep.
He's a pretty big name. You might have heard of him. Spoiler alert, he was dead the whole time in this movie. Wait, that's actually kind of true.
That's actually kind of close, yeah.
Kind of, yeah. Tom Savini, he was in From Dusk Till Dawn.
He was also the makeup artist for a few of the Friday the 13th movies.
And some of the Romero zombie movies. Quentin Tarantino, another cast member from Dusk Till Dawn. I guess he just likes casting himself in his own movies.
Yeah.
Or his friends' movies. Michael Parks.
And not only is Michael Parks a returning actor, but he's also a returning character.
Right, yeah, because he's playing the same character from the first From Dusk Till Dawn movie.
Yeah, Yeah.
And then he was also in From Dusk Till Dawn 3.
Dawn 3 is Ambrose Bierce.
Ambrose Bierce. What the hell? Oh my god, yeah. Kurt Russell, which we have had him on the podcast a lot, I realized, because he was in Escape from New York, Escape from LA, Soldier, and John Carpenter's The Thing, and now he's in this, well, half of this, but we'll get to that.
He's in the... Everyone we've listed so far is in Planet Terror. Kurt Russell is
Some
in
of
Death
them were in
Proof.
both. Michael Parks is in both, and Tarantino is in both.
Yeah.
But the most of the other ones I listed were in Planet Terror.
Just to clear up another thing real quick, Michael Parks is in both movies as Texas Ranger Earl McGraw.
Yes.
So we've almost covered his full saga on the podcast. He's also in Kill Bill.
Right, I was gonna ask that. Yeah, Kill Bill.
And so that's the only one that we're missing.
And then some of the people from the trailers, Danny Trejo. We've had him a lot actually, because he's in
everything.
He's in Con Air and all of the From Dusk Till Dawn movies. He's the only actor that appears in every From Dusk Till Dawn movie.
Yeah.
So, as the same character, I think. And he's in one of the trailers for the Machete, obviously.
Yep.
Nicolas Cage is in this. I don't know.
Which I was not expecting to see Nicolas Cage in this.
He was in Con Air and Face Off, and he's in one of the trailers for this. We'll definitely be talking about that.
Yeah.
Jason Isaacs, he was in Soldier and Armageddon. He's in one of the trailers.
Udo Kier.
Oh wait, have we had him before?
We haven't had him, but he was in one of the trailers.
Well, I'll get to that. I thought we...
Yeah.
Wait a second. I think we did have him. Wait a minute. Wasn't he in Armageddon?
Was he? He
was in Armageddon. So he's a returning cast member as well. Right.
Huh.
And he's also in this. I forgot about that. A lot of returning cast members from Armageddon, apparently. Simon Pegg, which he has a role in The Force Awakens.
I forgot about that.
He's the drunk trader. He's barely recognizable. And he's also in one of the trailers for this. And Pierce Serafinowicz, Darth Maul's voice in The Phantom Menace. He is, I believe, in one of the trailers. Let me look that up real quick. Or maybe not. Or yeah, he's in one of the fake trailers. Of course, it was the Edgar Wright one. Of course. The music was done by Robert Rodriguez, Graham Revell, and Carl Thiel. And we have had Graham Revell on the podcast before.
Really?
Because he also did the music for Street Fighter the movie.
Oh.
And From Dusk Till Dawn. That one probably doesn't surprise you, considering
that one makes sense, yeah.
Okay, so initial thoughts.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I think I'll start because it's my fault. This one. I think I had seen this before. I definitely had seen parts of it, but it was a long time ago. I know for a fact that I had seen some of the trailers from it, like Werewolf Women of the SS. I had definitely seen that trailer before. For some reason, I thought that Benicio del Toro was in it, but then I realized that I was thinking of Sin City. I think I confused stuff from Sin City with Planet Terror for whatever reason.
I mean, that's kind of fair.
Both of them have Bruce Willis in them. That might be why. And I kind of knew what...
Robert...
Sorry. Yeah, Robert Rodriguez was involved with both. I forgot about that, No Frank Miller involved with Grindhouse. It's probably a good thing. And I kind of knew what to expect from this, because this movie's directed by these two lunatics. I mean... And we already did From Dusk Till Dawn. I figured it would just be like that again. And this is far from being the best work of either of these two. Hell, a lot of people consider Death Proof Tarantino's worst movie. I preferred the other Rodriguez-Tarantino collaboration that we did on the podcast. I will say that for sure. That being From Dusk Till Dawn. The trailers ended up being more entertaining than the actual movies, if I'm being honest. Because the two feature films, they weren't that memorable to me, to be honest. Like, Planet Terror had its moments, but it was just kind of mediocre. Death Proof, I thought was straight up bad. Like, I didn't like it at all. I'll give them this. This double feature makes more sense to me than Barbenheimer. I still don't understand what the hell happened with that. Of these two, I enjoyed Planet Terror the most, as Robert Rodriguez seemed to understand the assignment more, but again, neither of these were that great. But at least some of the trailers were fun, so there's that. Your turn.
So, it kind of feels like you and I had slightly different experiences when watching these movies. I'll start off with Death Proof a bit, since that's kind of where you started.
Because you'd seen sorry, keep going.
Yeah, I'd seen Death Proof once before, a couple years ago. I just sat down and watched all the Tarantino movies, basically from when they were made up until now. I got to Death Proof, and I definitely thought this was his weakest movie that he had done.
Mm-hmm.
And so I already sort of went into the movie with that expectation, and I think it was better than I remembered it being, but it's still probably my least favorite Tarantino movie. For a variety of reasons. There's a lot of dialogue, which you can expect from most Tarantino films, but it didn't feel quite as interesting or captivating as something like The Hateful Eight, for example.
Yeah. Or Pulp Fiction, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
Or one of his better movies, like Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs, basically.
But I thought the few sort of action scenes that were in it were incredibly fun. But my biggest problem with the film overall is I think it's too long.
Are you saying that of Death Proof or just in total, like the whole thing?
Right now I'm talking about Death Proof, but yes, I think in total both of these movies are just too long.
I would agree with that.
But this was my first time watching Planet Terror. All I knew going into Planet Terror was that there was a character who was going to get a gun for a leg. That is all that I knew going into this.
I will give... okay, that's something I will give both these movies. They both have pretty good posters.
They do. Great posters.
Especially Planet Terror. That's a very memorable poster.
And I will say Planet Terror, it is a bad movie, but I actually had a ton of fun watching this. I definitely hit a point, like kind of the last 20 minutes of the movie where I was like, I don't know how to take notes on this anymore because it's just so psychotic.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did not know how to take notes on that movie. I really didn't.
But I will say
I didn't know how to take notes on either of these movies, if I'm being honest.
That's true.
For different reasons.
It is absolutely just insane. One of the most psychotic things I've watched, which is impressive considering that, we've done Crank 2 on the podcast.
That's kind of what...
and I've watched Yeah?
That's kind of what Planet Terror was reminding me of, was parts of it were reminding me of the Crank movies a bit.
Yeah, because I was thinking Crank and then also a Postal. It's like up there in terms of being just absolutely psychotic, insanely paced movies.
I'll get into that, but it kind of went in.
Hmm.
It was a bit much for me in some parts, but
That being said, there were things that I genuinely liked about this movie, and one of them, kind of the first half, when we're still building up to all the craziness and insanity. The movie has this just dark and foreboding atmosphere to it that is just fantastic. Like everything takes place at night. It's all kind of grimy looking. It's all very sort of quiet and slow, and just the music and everything just feels so menacing. Like something's about to happen.
I remember reading a few reviews where people were comparing Planet Terror to like a John Carpenter movie, which I didn't fully get that, but they were like saying the music kind of felt like something from a John Carpenter movie or something.
I can kind of see that, yeah. But again, my big problem with this is that it is just too long.
You've neglected to mention the trailers, I noticed, or were you waiting?
Oh yeah. Sorry, yeah, that's next. I think I actually agree with you that the trailers were my favorite part about this whole about the double feature,
Yeah.
because some of them are just really funny. Uh, we'll obviously get into it, but especially Werewolf Women of the SS. When Nick Cage showed up, I just lost
That
it.
was my favorite part, was the Werewolf Women of the SS trailer. I love that trailer so much. That's part of the problem. I feel like Planet Terror and Death Proof would have made better trailers than actual movies.
Yeah.
Because there were parts of Planet Terror I liked, but like as a whole, it was just kind of I just didn't get into it. Whereas I was looking at some of the fake trailers and going like, why didn't they just make those into movies? And granted, some of them were eventually.
Yeah. Three out of five were made into movies.
Like, where's the Werewolf Women of the SS movie? I would have loved to have seen that. But you do agree with me though that Planet Terror was the better of the two movies.
Yes.
Though.
Yes, I definitely felt more entertained.
Surprisingly, there are people that prefer Death Proof, which it shocks me. But I feel like that's got to be a contrarian position, right? I mean, anyway. Oh, Leonard Maltin. What do you want to guess?
I think he probably. Oh, I'm gonna say he didn't like him. I'm gonna go with my gut wants to say bomb for both, but I think he might have given it a little higher, maybe like 1.5 stars for both.
I was actually really surprised whenever he actually really enjoyed it.
Oh, really?
He gave it 3 out of 4 stars.
Wow, he really liked it.
I thought for sure he hated this one because it seems like he's not a huge
like schlock fan.
I don't think he's a huge Tarantino fan or Robert Rodriguez. Like he didn't like From Dusk Till Dawn. I know that.
Yeah.
And he didn't like Reservoir Dogs. But apparently he liked this. He called it long, but a lot of fun. So, well, good for you, Leonard. Okay, so the plot. I'm not gonna summarize this that much. You don't need to.
Do you need me to give a plot summary of Planet Terror?
I probably not. No. But basically, this is a parody of like 70s grindhouse movies. So like really schlocky, low budget, like horror action movies with like a lot of gore, a lot of sex, all that jazz.
With Planet Terror being more of like a zombie apocalypse thing, whereas Death Proof is more of a slasher.
Yeah, and it's presented as a double feature with fake trailers. And one thing I liked is they even like scratched up the film to make it look older.
Yeah.
At least with Planet Terror.
And I'm going to talk about that more with Planet Terror because I'm a little iffy on how it was used in Death Proof. I liked how it was used in Planet Terror.
Yeah, Planet Terror definitely feels like the schlockier of the two movies.
Yes.
Because Planet Terror, it's basically a zombie movie about a stripper with a gun for a leg. Is that right?
Yeah, well, the gun comes later, but...
Yeah, but I mean, it's on all the trailers. They want you to know it's in the movie. Yeah. And Death Proof is about a former stuntman that kills girls by wrecking his car.
Yep.
Okay. So, I believe, we're starting with Planet Terror, although the first thing we see is not Planet Terror, it's a trailer for Machete. And Machete, the history of this character is very interesting because originally he was a character from Spy Kids, which is a Robert Rodriguez movie.
Yeah.
Wait, which one was he in? Was he in?
I think he was in all of them.
He's in the first one. He's in the second one.
I know he's in the third one.
He's in the fourth one. Oh my god, he is in all of them. Wow. I don't know what he does in those, but apparently that's where he first showed up. And then...
I know he's like the uncle to like the main characters, but that's like all I know.
I don't remember much of the Spy Kids movies, and I'd prefer to keep it that way, especially with the third one.
I actually had a question. Do you think that Machete is canon to Spy Kids lore?
I guess he is. But yeah, then they did this fake trailer directed by Robert Rodriguez, with Danny Trejo as Machete, Jeff Fahey's in it as the bad guy, Cheech Marin plays a priest.
Plays a priest who I think is supposed to be Machete's brother.
And I think Cheech Marin also appears in the Machete movie, because they later did a full-length movie.
Yeah.
Okay, and Jeff Fahey's also in the Machete movie, okay. Yeah. Maybe we should do Machete at some point. That'd be funny. And basically Machete is like, it's a parody of like low-budget 70s action movies.
Yeah.
If it had been made in the 70s, it probably would have starred Charles Bronson. And basically, it's about a Mexican assassin that uses a lot of machetes. Like, he has this, like, coat. He has this jacket. He opens it up. It has hundreds of machetes in it.
And he's supposed to be, like, the ultimate badass. So, like, it shows him out, like, basically sleeping with the main villain's wife and daughter. He leads some sort of uprising and there's like 50 different people wielding machetes following him.
Oh jeez, yeah. It's pretty entertaining. There's a Godfather reference in it. There's a Rambo 3 reference in it. Because the priest says, like, may God have mercy on my enemies, because I won't, or something like that, which is kind of something that it's kind of like a line from Rambo 3. It's also rated X, apparently. But yeah, definitely adds to the 70s Grindhouse feel of it. And then obviously Machete was later turned into a feature film, and it had 2 sequels, Machete Kills and Machete Kills Again in Space.
What?
That was a fake trailer at the end of Machete Kills. It wasn't an actual
Oh,
movie.
okay.
But I wish they'd done that as a movie. That would have been funny. And, it is a fun trailer. Unfortunately, it's kind of ruined at the end. Because they say that it's brought to you by your friends at the Weinstein Company.
Yeah. That was a little weird to see.
Yeah. Fuck Harvey Weinstein. And then we get to Planet Terror. And it is about a stripper named Cherry that has to stop zombies. She loses her leg in a car accident, and then towards the end gets like a machine gun for a
just
leg
strapped to her leg.
I thought the machine gun would be in more of the movie, but oh well.
Yeah, no, it only really shows up in the last 20 minutes. But that's also when the movie goes like absolutely batshit crazy, so it makes sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird things about this movie. Some of those are things I don't like, because one of the first things we see is that there's this... this movie definitely does not shy away from the R rating, that's for sure.
No. Because one of the first things we see is there's this guy played by, what's his name? Naveen Andrews, who some people might recognize from Lost, who's a scientist, but also kind of a terrorist that is really obsessed with cutting off other people's balls and keeping them for some reason.
Yeah, he like has them all in a jar. Just yuck. Like, I usually I have a pretty high tolerance for violence in movies, but whenever it's something involving like genitals, I'm like, thank you. No, thank you.
And it's weird for how many times it comes up in the movie.
Yeah. Thankfully, it looks fake, but still,
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that. Then Bruce Willis shows up.
As he does.
They spray some gas and people start turning into zombies. And that's the opening of Planet Terror.
And then after that, the movie's kind of calm for a while. Like, you'll get hints here and there of, like, some zombies showing up, but for about, like, I want to say 40, maybe 50 minutes, it's not, like, too insane.
Yeah. Like, another thing we see, Josh Brolin, which I forgot.
Yeah, I don't think we mentioned that he was in this movie, but Josh Brolin is here.
I forgot Josh Brolin was in this movie. I think this is the same year he was in No Country for Old Men too. So it's like,
of course.
What the hell are you doing in this? And he plays a doctor. He's like examining a dude in the hospital. This is another part that was really gross because they're showing like I don't even.
So some guy on the computer. So Josh Brolin is basically doing this medical checkup on this guy who got bit. That has this wound on his arm, and there's a doctor behind him trying to find wounds that match. And so he's cycling through these pictures of bodies, and at one point it's just like showing a man's like deformed penis on screen. And they make sure to stop on that and have the doctor point at that picture in particular.
That was disgusting, yeah.
I will say, though, the makeup and special effects are really good, though.
Yeah, but do you want to be proud of creating the deformed penis for Grindhouse?
Okay, maybe not specifically the deformed penis, but like the patient in the room, like his arm looks like it's starting to like rot off, and then like those blisters that show up on people's faces.
Can you see why I was comparing this to the Crank movies earlier?
It is a very apt description.
That feels like something that would be in Crank High Voltage, honestly. It's just like, why are you showing this? Please just stop. And we cut back to the stripper named Cherry, and she apparently wants to be a stand-up comedian, but there's a problem.
She's not funny.
She's not funny. She's also not very good at acting, I noticed in this movie.
Maybe it was on purpose.
Maybe, I don't know. That's the problem with this movie, is like, it was bad, but I'm not sure, like, when it was...
What parts were on purpose or not.
Yeah. Because if they were trying to make it feel like a bad 70s, like, you know, like, horror film, well, okay, I guess. Anyway. We see Michael Biehn and Tom Savini as cops.
Michael Biehn is a great cop in this movie. Just, like, absolutely trusts basically everyone except for Freddy Rodriguez. And there was a weird side plot with him and Jeff Fahey's character, where he keeps trying to steal his barbecue sauce recipe.
I forgot Jeff Fahey was an actual character in the... Okay, because he's in the trailer Machete, but then he's also in the actual movie. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
They show a no-brainer with no brain. Because, of course. Some of the lines in this were just like, are you kidding me? Like...
Yeah, no, it was painful at points. I don't know if I wrote down a whole lot of lines for this.
The
I did, but it was
in
later
Planet
in the
Terror,
movie. But
again, it might have just been on purpose, but the dialogue, it was not good. It was not good.
It's so bad. Oh man, I want to get to some of my favorite lines, but they don't happen until later in the movie.
How much later in the movie?
Like, I'm just gonna read off a couple now so people can get an idea of what this is like.
I didn't write too many down, but...
There's one. Hold on, what was Josh Brolin's character's name? I need the full thing.
I have no idea.
William Block, okay.
I just wrote Josh Brolin, because, I mean, he's Josh Brolin.
Oh, come on, where is it?
Whenever he talked, it was kind of distracting because I was thinking of Thanos whenever he talked.
Oh, there's one line. So Josh Brolin, he has this troubled relationship with, I think she's supposed to be his wife. He gets turned into a zombie and decides, as a zombie, to go hunt down his wife who was cheating on him. with Fergie, I would like to add. She was cheating on him with Fergie.
Why would you cheat on Josh Brolin with... Okay. Fucking Fergie.
And he's hunting her down. He causes their kid to shoot himself in the head. Goes up to his wife and says, "I'm gonna eat your brains and gain your knowledge."
I don't remember that line, but yeah, that's a weird one.
It's like there's nothing like relevant to that. I don't think they anywhere said that you would get like a person's knowledge. He's the only zombie that can talk. It's like what is happening?
It kind of felt like another one of those movies that was like, and then we get a scene of.
It really was.
It wasn't as bad at that as the next movie, but like, you know, the beginning of this I felt was kind of slow. Like they were really taking a long time to.
It was slow, but I actually kind of I mentioned earlier in my opening thoughts that I actually kind of liked it because the just the atmosphere was really good, just kind of like tense and dark.
You know, maybe the problem is I've just seen too many zombie movies, so it just didn't really... I don't know. Like, maybe I'm just over zombies. That, and I just didn't give a shit about any of the characters in this.
Oh, yeah, no.
To be honest. Like, aside from Bruce Willis, but that's just because he was Bruce Willis. I was like, yay, Bruce Willis is in this movie, yeah. Oh, we need to mention this. The blood in this looks ridiculous.
It is so insane. It's like people explode if they're touched by anything. Like they'll get hit with a bullet, and there's just like gallons upon gallons of blood that just gush out of them at once.
Not only that, but it's like bright red blood, like what you see in a Hammer or like Giallo movie. It's so ridiculous. Which again is definitely on purpose.
Yeah. There's a lot of explosions too, and none of it makes sense because it'll just be the middle of some action scene, and suddenly every car will just explode out of nowhere. There's one moment where they're in the hospital and it starts to get overrun by zombies. You see Freddy Rodriguez's character running down the hallway. He turns a corner and suddenly the whole hospital is on fire.
It's pretty ridiculous, yeah. There was like one part where there were just a bunch of explosions going off and like
it was hard to tell what was happening after a while.
The stripper was like flying through the air, like shooting people with her machine gun leg.
Yeah, because she has like, I guess, like a grenade launcher or something, and so she uses it to basically rocket jump up into the air to shoot more people.
It was pretty absurd. But I mean, if you're looking for a lot of gore and a lot of explosions, this movie has a lot of that. So, if that's what you want out of a movie, this movie has plenty of it.
I will say,
if you want a lot of really atrocious dialogue in a movie, this has a lot of that too.
Bad. I will say one thing that we touched on a bit. So both of these movies have basically like different film distortion on top of it. Like they actually went and I think physically damaged the film itself to get the effect.
It probably, yeah.
I think it works really well in this one. And I don't know if you picked up on this, but whenever the zombies show up in the movie, even if it's just for like a little bit, the distortion starts to get worse once they're on screen.
Yeah, and the color grading of it looked a lot like a movie from the 70s, which I liked.
Yeah.
There were also, like, editing flubs that were definitely done on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
In there, which were kind of funny. Like, there was one part where there's, like, a sex scene, and then in the middle of the sex scene, the reel burns up, and it says missing reel.
Okay.
And then it just skips to a fire.
I know. I we need to talk about that, because that's, like, my favorite gag in the whole movie.
Okay.
So yeah, they're in the middle of a sex scene, and then all of a sudden you just get a slide that comes up that says missing reel. And then it feels like we jump forward 20 minutes into the movie. There's like 10 new characters just standing around. Everything's on fire. They're trying to escape. It's insane. Michael Bihn's character and Freddy Rodriguez made up, I guess, during that scene that was missing. And so there's all this character development and new characters showing up that we've never seen before that just gets hand waved away because they were missing a reel.
I think there's like an extended version of this out there somewhere. I don't know what changed, but anyway. I'm kind of glad these weren't that long, though, because like otherwise they would have really overstayed their welcome. Hell, Death Proof already had overstayed its welcome, but we'll get to that. There's this kid with a pet scorpion, turtle, and tarantula, and when they have to leave, he like tries putting them all in like one container. And his mom's like saying, "You can't bring all of them." Like, just... I thought that was kind of funny.
That mom character too. So she is Josh Brolin's wife. They have this confrontation early on in the movie where Josh Brolin basically anesthetizes her hands, so she can't use her hands for like over half the movie. It's one of the dumbest recurring jokes in the movie, but it managed to make me laugh a couple of times. Like when she's first trying to get in the car, and she just like demolishes her wrist on the handle of the car door. Where it's just bent the wrong way, and then she spends the rest of the movie just unable to pick anything up, pretty much.
Yeah, just the humor in it. I guess the humor in it just wasn't really landing for me with a lot of it, so it just wasn't. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, Tarantino shows up in a cameo.
Tarantino decided to play a rapist again.
Yeah, in a movie produced by Harvey Weinstein.
I will say his death scene was pretty...
The implications of that. Okay, sorry, what were you saying?
I was about to say, Tarantino's death scene is so just ridiculous in this movie.
Yeah, they really went for it with that.
They really wanted him dead. He gets stabbed in one eye by
Cherry's like wooden leg, like
yeah,
because he tries raping her.
Yeah,
he like says she looks like Ava Gardner, which she doesn't, but whatever. Oh, also he's listed in the credits as rapist number 1.
He's also got another one of the worst lines of all time in this movie.
Oh, jeez. I think I remember.
I've seen me a lot of weird shit in my day, but I ain't never seen a one-legged stripper. I seen me a stripper with one breast, and I seen me a stripper with 12 toes. I've even seen me a stripper with no brains at all, but I ain't never seen a one-legged stripper, and I've been to Morocco.
I feel like there's another line that he said that I was like, oh, wow, I cannot believe that they actually... It was when it... Yeah, okay, yeah. It's because his balls like start melting off. He said something there. I can't remember what it was.
He was like, I just gotta make it quick.
Or something. I don't know. He said something, and it was like, I just cannot believe that line.
Oh yeah, no. He said I'm gonna have to make this quick when he's trying to run over. Ugh.
I did not need to see Quentin Tarantino's balls melt off in a movie, but okay, movie, you gave me that. Apparently, that's an image I never wanted to see.
He turns into like a Cronenberg creature as he's dying because his like flesh begins to melt. He vomits up a bunch of tentacles. He gets stabbed in his other eye with a syringe.
Why does he always like get cast as just the shittiest people in these movies? Like, just
I think he just chooses to.
Like, jeez.
I will say, I think my favorite Tarantino death scene might still be Django Unchained when he gets blown up, but this was a close second for Tarantino deaths.
I would rather forget about this one. I'll take your word for it. Really, all of his death scenes are good scenes because this is Quentin Tarantino getting killed off. I mean, he probably gets off on it. That's probably why he does anyway.
Should we talk about Bruce Willis?
Bruce Willis turns into a zombie and then they kill him immediately.
He doesn't just turn into a zombie. When he's explaining why him and all the soldiers started turning into zombies, he reveals that he killed Osama bin Laden.
I forgot about that.
And then he turns into like a Resident Evil boss.
That was That was another thing. In some of the reviews I was looking at, there were people comparing this to Resident Evil. Is that accurate? Because I don't know much about the games.
Tone-wise, no. It is not any... Okay, maybe Resident Evil 6, actually. But more so, let me look up...
I guess it's kind of like the
bosses,
Resident Evil movies. I have seen some of those. Afterlife, so honestly, that fight scene in Afterlife, that would fit in this movie, and it
would fit in perfectly.
It would not be the most ridiculous thing in this movie either, which is impressive. And I will say, some
Yeah.
of the zombie makeup wasn't bad.
Oh yeah, no, especially I think Bruce Willis's was good. Tarantino's was pretty good.
Yeah, besides the balls, but anyway. Jeez.
Oh, Freddie Rodriguez's line as he kills Bruce Willis is pretty good.
What was that? I don't remember.
He says, "God bless you and your service to this country."
Right, yeah, okay, I remember that now. Yep, that was funny. So that's what, the second movie we've done where Bruce Willis gets killed.
Yeah.
He sacrificed himself to save us from the asteroid, and this gets killed because he's a zombie. If we do The Sixth Sense, he's very dead in that one.
Yeah. That's a spoiler.
Everybody fucking knows about it, though. Actually, no, the real twist of Sixth Sense is he wakes up at the end and realizes he's in an M. Night Shyamalan movie. She gets the machine gun leg. I don't know how she's gonna pull the trigger on that, but okay.
She just does. She just wills it into existence.
For being a big part of the marketing, that's not in as much of the movie as you would think, which is surprising.
I know, and it is a little disappointing, because I was fully ready to just have Sherry just mowing down zombies with a gun like the whole movie. Part of me was also wondering if the developers behind the Bayonetta games watched this movie and really liked it.
Oh, did they have a machine gun leg in that?
Kind of. So, like, Bayonetta, she has, like, these high heels where the heels are guns, and so she uses those to fight.
Oh, I think I've seen pictures of that. Good, bad, I'm the guy with the gun. Yeah, like, I was just watching this movie, and I was like, I kept waiting for it to get really entertaining, and it didn't quite reach that for me.
For me, I think it did hit it for me.
It didn't really start getting there until towards the end. Like, some of the ending was kind of entertaining, just because of how ridiculous it got.
I think once I got to the missing reel gag, I think that's when I finally realized what the movie was and started to enjoy it quite a bit and started laughing at it.
The missing reel gag was funny. That was pretty funny. And there were some stylistic choices I liked, so there's that. Again, like the scratching up the reel to make it look like a 70s movie, I liked that.
Yeah. And we haven't really talked about it yet, but Robert Rodriguez's score wasn't bad.
I don't really remember much of it, if I'm being honest.
It kind of was a John Carpenter-y thing where it was pretty synth,
it was
pretty synth heavy.
I do remember it being a synth score. Very different from Death Proof, but we'll get to that. Josh Brolin becomes a zombie. And I thought it'd be funny if he like showed up and he just looked like Thanos.
Just massive and purple.
Yeah. But unfortunately, this movie is not perfectly balanced. And nor is it inevitable. Anyway. Oh, Michael Parks shows up towards the end. This movie needed more of Michael Parks, because he was
it did
one of the better parts of this movie.
Yeah. He's in it twice. He's there briefly at the beginning, doing a little bit of investigation, and then he shows up towards the end as part of the main group.
Because he's walking through the hospital, right?
Yeah.
Which some of those shots actually did look like they could have been from a 70s movie. Like, they looked like long shots from a 70s movie. And I like a lot of 70s movies, so any attempt to make it feel like that, I'll take that as a good thing. And it's just funny too that he's playing the same character that he did From Dusk Till Dawn.
It's the same character. Ignore the fact that he died in From Dusk Till Dawn.
That's right, yeah, because he dies in the opening shootout.
Yeah, he dies in the opening shootout and then shows up in Kill Bill, then shows up here, and then shows up in Death Proof.
That means that in the From Dusk Till Dawn, if this takes place in the same universe as From Dusk Till Dawn, that means there is not only vampires, or sorry, there's not only fucking vampires, there's also fucking zombies.
And a lot of ninjas.
That's what this movie needed. We needed a George Clooney or something. We needed a character like that just to make snarky comments throughout the whole thing.
Can you imagine, like, replace, like, Freddie Rodriguez with George Clooney?
Just have George Clooney play, like, a cop or something. Yeah, that would have been funny.
Yeah.
Have him go on another... He had that rant about vampires in From Dusk Till Dawn. Just have him do one, but about zombies. We got a bunch of fucking zombies out there trying to get in here and eat our fucking brains. And that's it. Plain and simple. Now, I don't want to hear about how I don't believe in zombies. Because I don't fucking believe in zombies, but I believe my own lies. And what I saw is fucking zombies. Now, do we all agree that what we are dealing with here is zombies? You know, that, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mentioned this earlier, but watching this movie... It kind of reminded me of Crank High Voltage. And it is a little better than that movie. I'll give it that.
Yes, I would say it's definitely better than Crank High Voltage.
Probably not saying much, because, I mean...
Yeah.
There's a lot of movies better than Crank High Voltage. Oh, well, one thing I liked, they use helicopter blades to decapitate a bunch of zombies. That was pretty funny. And then after all the carnage, they just go to live on a beach.
Yeah, a beach in Mexico. They're, like, living in some, like, Aztec ruins.
Is it the same ruins from Dusk Till Dawn?
Honestly, that's what it was giving me flashbacks to.
Because that's how From Dusk Till Dawn ends, is they find out there's like a... like... Aztec or Mayan, like... a temple, like, just attached to the back of the titty twister or whatever.
Yeah.
And she has a minigun for a leg now, so anyway. Yeah, that was the end of Planet Terror. The better part of the double feature. Sadly. I don't have much positive to say about the next one.
Should we get into...
It had its moments, you know. I'm glad you liked it, at least, you know.
Yeah, no, I had an absolute blast watching this. I was a little unsure during the first half. The back half, I was dying, but I still feel like it was just a bit too long. Like, maybe if you cut out, like, 15 minutes somewhere.
And then parts of it for me were a bit too gross. Basically, whatever it did. Anyway, genitals. I don't like seeing genitals mutilated. Okay, that's a me thing. So, Death Proof. And Death Proof actually does start off strong, because before we get to the actual movie, we get a bunch of trailers, and these were the best trailers,
yes,
by far, in the whole thing.
They are so good.
The first trailer that we get in Death Proof was directed by Rob Zombie. It's called Werewolf Women of the SS.
And it is just as insane as it sounds.
Werewolves that are also Nazis and like...
They're women Nazi werewolves who were, like, created by Udo Kier, I think.
I'm trying to remember... Wait, there was like a... Oh, there's like some 70s, like...
So, I know there's She-Wolf of the SS.
What the hell was... I'm trying to remember. Yes, Ilsa She-Wolf of the SS. That's right.
Yes,
It's
yes.
obviously a parody of
I think
stuff
that's
like
one
that.
of the things that, Rob Zombie said that was like one of his inspirations for the trailer.
That does not surprise me, yeah. Honestly, I would have much preferred watching this over Planet Terror or Death Proof, because it's insane. I mean, you have Udo Kier as a Nazi. You have Nicolas Cage.
As Fu Manchu.
Nicolas Cage as Fu Manchu, and he's only in the movie for like a few seconds, but just those seconds, like, he leaves an impression.
He does like the same face that he does in Face Off.
Just, yeah, the ridiculous. Because if you don't know who Fu Manchu is, like, he was like this like Chinese supervillain, kind of a racial stereotype, So like that's probably why this didn't get made into a full movie, is because the racial, they would have been accused of being racist. And the fact it's Nicolas Cage as and Sybil Danning
it was without a doubt my favorite trailer, just because of how just wild and insane it was.
Just go watch it. It's ridiculous. Sybil Danning's also in it. There's a guy from Army of Darkness in it.
Oh.
I'm trying to remember who it was. Oh, okay. Bill Moseley. That's who it was. He played Deadite Captain in Army of Darkness.
Oh.
And he plays Dr. Heinrich von Strasser in Werewolf Women of the SS.
Women of the SS.
Just the title, I mean, oh god, I wish that actually got made. That was definitely my favorite trailer during the whole thing.
Yeah. And even though it was only like a minute and a half long, you can tell that it was a Rob Zombie thing.
It did feel like it had the
like there was one shot of like a mad scientist where the first thing I thought of was Dr. Satan in House of a Thousand Corpses.
It did look like Rob Zombie, yeah, with the weird lighting and editing and shit. The next trailer was directed by Edgar Wright, actually, and that was Don't. It was like this. It's a parody of like haunted house movies. I thought that one was pretty funny.
Yeah. I like the editing. How like it'll freeze frame on someone screaming and just tear away a bit to say "don't."
And the taglines, they say "don't" a lot. It's basically like, if you're thinking of going into this house, don't. Like the over the top like trailer voice. It's pretty funny. Jason Isaacs stars in it. Nick Frost and Simon Pegg have cameos, so you can really tell that this is an Edgar Wright thing, since those two are in it. It's like it's a parody of like stuff like House on Haunted Hill, so maybe not necessarily. Maybe it didn't feel as 70s as the other trailers, but it was pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
That was probably my second favorite trailer from this, behind Werewolf Women of the SS. Those are the two best trailers in the thing, and those are the only ones that didn't get movies.
Only two that didn't get made into full movies.
That's kind of surprising to me. Because the next trailer...
It could be...
Sorry, what were you saying?
I said I was about to say, it could be something like you mentioned earlier, how you feel like Planet Terror and Death Proof might have made better trailers. It could be something like that, where just like there's a really strong idea there that you can make a really funny trailer for, but it would be harder to make like a full feature-length film out of.
It would be kind of hard to sustain that, yeah, because then it might just turn into Crank High Voltage. Where there's like funny ideas, but then you stretch it out. Or Army of Frankensteins. You remember Army of Frankensteins?
Yes.
That would be a hilarious fake trailer. But as a feature-length movie, it was really, really hard to sit through. And then the next trailer was directed by Eli Roth. I'm not a huge fan of his, if you can't tell.
Hey, what do you mean? Borderlands is my favorite film that came out this year.
I didn't see that. That looked like a piece of shit.
Neither did I. I heard it was awful.
You know what the trailers reminded me of? The trailer that reminded me of Suicide Squad. It really did.
Yeah. No, I think that's what they were going for. Like that or like Guardians of the Galaxy.
It was like a bet, yeah, which Suicide Squad definitely was trying to be like Guardians of the Galaxy and failed miserably.
I mean, well, you bring on James Gunn to do the reboot of Suicide Squad, it's going to feel like Guardians of the Galaxy.
They basically like went and did another one because the first Suicide Squad movie was so pitiful. But yeah, so Eli Roth directed this trailer and it's called Thanksgiving, and this one got made into a feature-length movie last year. I cannot believe it did. It's on Netflix right now, so I was like going, should I watch it? I don't know if I'm gonna watch it. I'm not a Eli Roth fan. And this it's basically like a parody of like Black Christmas or John Carpenter's Halloween. Like the way it's shot looks like John Carpenter's Halloween. And of the trailers, it felt the most 70s. Like, they did a really good job making it look like a 70s movie. With, like, the grainy, like, camera work and... even, like, some of the clothes. Like, it looked very 70s.
There was a lot of pretty good gags throughout the trailer. Like, this killer is the stealthiest killer of all time. There's one where these two people go in for a kiss, and then the camera pulls back, and then you find out the one guy's throat got slashed in the middle of it.
Apparently, yeah. And there's like a part where there's like a Thanksgiving parade, and a guy wearing a turkey costume gets his head cut off. Again, it was again trying to parody like holiday themed slasher films, Black Christmas, Halloween, stuff like that. And it's not bad. I didn't like it as much as Werewolf Women of the SS, obviously, because I mean that's a hard one to beat. Or Don't, but again, I'm surprised this one got made into a feature film out of it.
Yeah, no, that actually surprises me that Eli Roth came back to it later. It's like, yeah, I could do a full movie based on that.
Michael Biehn is in the trailer for that. I forgot about that. Yeah. But like these trailers, they're honestly so much more enjoyable than the actual movies. Like if anything, just go on YouTube, just look up the trailers. They're pretty funny. Because now we have to actually get. Did you have anything else to add about?
Did we want to talk about Hobo with a Shotgun at all?
I guess we might as well. That one's technically okay. The copy I watched didn't have it, but
okay.
There are some versions of this movie that have another trailer called Hobo with a Shotgun. This one was also made into a feature-length movie. And the feature film starred Rutger Hauer.
Yeah, which was...
Yeah. Yep. Roy Batty from Blade Runner.
Yep.
Then this trailer, it was alright. I didn't like it as much as some of the other ones, but it had some funny parts. Just some of the dialogue was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like Machete, where it feels like just a low-budget 70s, like, action revenge type movie. Except it's a hobo with a shotgun. Like, where did they come up with these crazy ideas?
See, honestly, I think these probably were people's favorite things to make. Because they were just told, go make a trailer, make it like 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes long, and just go nuts with it. Do whatever you want for it.
Who did that trailer? Apparently that one... Okay, it was part of a contest. And it got to be in the movie because it, like, won the contest. So unlike the other trailers, it was just by some dude. Like, the other ones were by, like, because you had Edgar Wright, Rob Zombie, Eli Roth, established directors, and this one, it's just, The same guy that did Treevenge, another short film. Which I'm surprised Treevenge wasn't in Grindhouse. Like, they could have done a fake trailer for Treevenge. Did you have anything to say about Hobo with a Shotgun, or?
Not really. I just wanted to mention that it was there.
There was one line I thought was kind of funny where the hobo says, like, that he's gonna sleep in their bloody carcasses or something.
Oh yeah,
like
I'm sleeping in your bloody carcass tonight.
Yeah, that was funny. But again, like, that one got a feature-length film, but Werewolf Women of the Angle.
But
I don't know. I have seen I did see the actual movie, Hobo with a Shotgun, and it kind of felt like Planet Terror to me, where it's like, I feel like they maybe... It's like when George Lucas said, it's bold in terms of jerking people around, but I may have went too far in a few places. Okay, Death Proof. This one had some promise because Kurt Russell stars in it.
Yes, and he's probably the best part of the movie.
Not probably, he is the best part of it.
Yeah.
And him and the soundtrack. His soundtrack wasn't bad.
Yeah, the soundtrack is great.
That's one thing, I have my gripes with Quentin Tarantino. I will never criticize his soundtracks. He's good at picking songs, Like, Jackie Brown is not his best movie, but that is a great soundtrack.
Yeah.
And I thought this one had an interesting idea for a premise, but it just was not executed well. Because basically, Kurt Russell, he's a former Hollywood stuntman who drives this car that he says is death-proof.
It's basically he can get into any accident he wants and he'll be okay. And so he uses this death-proof car to be a serial killer, pretty much.
Kills girls with he speeds and slams on the brakes and kills a girl at one point. And you can tell that this is a Tarantino movie because there are a lot of feet shots.
The opening shot is of feet.
It is.
I think this is a great time to mention, I watched this movie at work while filling out paperwork. And so I had to keep checking the screen just to make sure, see if I had to hide it for a little bit because of how long it was focusing on feet.
I'd be a little embarrassed to be watching Death Proof at work. One thing that's worth mentioning about the cast in this is that Rosario Dawson and Mary Elizabeth Winstead are in this.
Yep.
And both of them were later in the Ahsoka series.
I knew Rosario Dawson was. Who was Mary Elizabeth?
Hera.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, she was also in the 2011 Thing movie.
Mm-hmm. And I think her most famous role was Scott Pilgrim. If I remember right. Yep. Not another Edgar Wright connection. One of the things I wrote early in my notes, I remember this one being boring, and
yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, I wrote down. I remember this being my least favorite Tarantino movie.
Yeah, and it is for me, at least. I don't know. It is for you.
And honestly,
well.
it's a bit hard to talk about because it's an hour, just under an hour and a half, I think. No, just under 2 hours. And so much of it is just talking about relationships, and it's just not interesting because you're not interested in any of the characters.
The first half of the movie, it follows this one group of girls, and the second half follows another group. The second group,
Yeah.
they weren't as annoying as the first group. The first
second group had the added benefit of they were all completely psychotic, which made the end of the movie really funny.
and they also the second group had Rosario Dawson and Mary Elizabeth Winstead,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Whereas the first group, they were just annoying. I was like, they're like talking about asses or something. I was like, I don't know what the hell's going on here. And Tarantino movies are weird because you either look forward to scenes where characters talk or you dread them. In this one, I was dreading
this
them.
one you dread.
Every scene where characters are talking to each other, it's just like, oh my god, dude.
Because it really is just talking about their relationships. You don't know really who these people are. You don't know who they're in relationships with. It ultimately goes nowhere for everyone. It's just boring.
It was boring, yeah.
Which is like the worst thing you can do.
I mean, there's worse things you can do. Be boring or annoying. This is both, actually. It's boring and annoying. The editing in this one was kind of like jumpy at some points, like lines.
Yeah, because you mentioned a bit that like in Death Proof they did very purposeful cuts to certain scenes that were just like a bit too early.
Planet Terror, you mean?
Yeah. Sorry, Planet Terror.
And in this one, it's like there would be lines that were skipped, and then other times I'd be like, "Wait a second, did they just repeat a line?" It was weird.
Yes. Sometimes the audio would just cut out. The film distortions and like the damage to the film were pretty inconsistent. There'd be even times where there just wasn't any, and it just felt weird.
I felt like this one felt like it was trying to look like a 70s movie, but it didn't quite make it. Whereas with Planet Terror, there were parts of it that actually looked like a 70s movie.
Yeah.
And this one, I guess, didn't quite reach that. I liked some of the song choices. I'll give them that, yeah.
Yeah.
We hear part of Baby It's You by Smith as Kurt Russell drives by, you know. And Hold Tight, they play that as well. I can never remember the name of that group, though, because it's just a bunch of dudes' names. And...
Can we talk about the best part about this movie, though, which are its two action scenes?
Wait, I found it. Dave D, Dozy, Beaky, Mick, and Titch. That was the name of the group.
Oh.
I could never...
It's a very descriptive name.
I can't remember. Is it any wonder it was a 60s group? Where was I? Oh, Tarantino shows up again.
Yeah, and he has a line that's a reference to Pulp Fiction.
Which line was that? I'm trying to remember.
He called his drink a tasty beverage.
Oh, okay. Yeah. This is a tasty beverage. They don't go to a Big Kahuna Burger and order a Royale cheese in this, but okay.
Well, they don't go to Big Kahuna Burger, but they mention Big Kahuna Burger at one point.
Yeah.
And then one of the characters, she's part of the first group of women, compares Kurt Russell's character to Zatoichi. And I was like, what a weird, obscure reference for this character to make. Yeah, that's a
samurai. That's like a series of samurai.
Yeah, the blind swordsman.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I might have seen one of those, but anyway. Like one of the early ones. I forgot about that. Yeah, that is kind of... He does like including just random references. There's like I think they mentioned like Vanishing Point a few times.
Yeah.
I could definitely tell that Vanishing Point was a influence on this. Gone with 60 Seconds, they mention. And they specify which one, too. They're like the original, not Angelina Jolie. And we also had Nicolas Cage in it. And which, if you don't know anything about Gone in 60 Seconds, the original one, like, there's like the ending of that movie is just this ridiculously long car chase with like hundreds of cars just getting wrecked. Oh, maybe we should have just done that on the podcast. I don't know. But yeah, the movie, it was just about, it was people talking. It wasn't interesting. I've heard there are extended versions of this. I can't imagine how bad the extended versions are, because it was already pretty...
Yeah, no, this is, again, this doesn't need to be longer. It needs to be shorter.
Yeah. And it's a problem with some of Tarantino's other movies. Like, that's a problem with Jackie Brown as well. A lot of extended scenes of just nothing conversations. Although at least in that one you had Samuel L. Jackson and Robert De Niro. So.
Yeah. And I will say, he did kind of make up for it since his next movie was Inglourious Bastards.
I'm not as big of a fan of Inglourious Bastards as you are, but it's better than this.
Oh, really?
It's better than this movie, obviously. It's better than this. And at least that had Hans Landa in it, so there's that. And yeah, more feet shots. Oh, at one point it says real missing, and I wrote good means less screen time.
Yeah, you were about to. You just mentioned more feet shots. That was so weird, and I hated that scene.
They're like out. Is that the one where they're sitting out in the rain, and it's just?
I was thinking of the one where Kurt Russell goes up and starts touching her feet that are like just dangling out the car window.
That, yeah, I don't know. Just. He likes feet, I guess. I don't know.
Somebody has a cell phone in the movie that has the Kill Bill whistle.
I forgot about that. I kind of zoned out of parts of this movie, if I'm being honest. It was really boring.
I think we should talk about the best part of this movie, which are its two chase scenes.
Some of the car chase, yeah, there were some good car stunts here. Like one of the first ones is there's this part where the first group, their car crashes and there's just limbs flying everywhere.
Yeah, no, they play the crash 4 times, each time focusing on a different character. There's one person who just explodes pretty much as soon as the car crash happens.
And some of them are like obviously dummies too.
Yeah.
Oh, and then this is where I wrote, is that the same hospital from Planet Terror?
Honestly, it looks like it was.
And I'm pretty sure it was, because guess what? Michael Parks shows up again.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if his scenes were all filmed, like, on the same day.
Probably, yeah.
And I love his role, because he shows up, he's like, I think Stuntman Mike did it, but I don't care enough to investigate, I'm gonna go watch NASCAR instead.
Yeah.
Even Sheriff McGraw knew not to be in this movie.
Oh, jeez. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of watching NASCAR, but yeah, that probably would be more interesting than watching Death Proof. There were some good camera shots. Yeah, then we get another group of girls in this. 2 of them played by Rosario Dawson and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and they're a little better than the other group, so there's that. Sorry, what were you saying?
And what's interesting is Zoe Bell, who is a stunt woman, is sort of like the main character of this second group, plays herself, which is kind of funny.
That is yeah, that was an interesting choice. But hey, it's not like they made a movie and then had Foo Fighters play themselves. Oh wait, that did actually happen. It was not a Tarantino movie.
And the part of the reason that the second group is a bit more fun is because they're sort of psychotic. So during their chase at the end of the movie, they decide to fight back against Stuntman Mike.
Yeah, they just kill him. It's just what that ending was so abrupt too. It just like
I don't know. I love the ending. So the ending is probably my favorite part of the movie, because of how abrupt it is.
there's like that car chase, and they just beat him up and like I don't know. It's just like
Yeah, they start off in a car chase, kind of like the first half, where it's Stuntman Mike trying to run them off the road. He eventually gives up and he starts to leave, and then they shoot him in the arm, and then it's them chasing him instead, which was kind of funny. And so the movie ends with him getting beaten by all three women, one of whom is holding a pipe. It ends with him getting knocked onto the ground, and then it just freeze frames, and then the credits start to roll.
I think at that point I was just kind of checked out of the movie. So, and also I was kind of just
I thought it was a pretty funny gag.
kind of just hoping there'd just be more of Kurt Russell in this, and then they just kill him off that quickly. I was like, come on, like, jeez. Because it is torturous getting to the like car chases and because it's just a lot of boring,
You do have to wait for a long time.
long drawn out talking. This is a problem with Tarantino's worst movies. Is like they forget to have a plot. It just becomes characters just talking. You know, it makes me think of that line from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles where Steve Martin said, "Here's an idea. Have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener."
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Like, this movie really reminded me why I find Tarantino obnoxious sometimes, you know. Sometimes he does make a good movie that has, like, entertaining characters and dialogue. You know, again, Pulp Fiction, I like that movie. Reservoir Dogs, I like that one. I mentioned Hateful Eight earlier. I remember liking Hateful Eight. No, certainly better than this. But yeah, then he makes stuff like this. I'm just like, oh my god, just shut up. Like, shut up. They leave Mary Elizabeth Winstead with some guy to film a cheerleader porno or something. I don't know what.
Apparently, it's weird.
Like I don't know. Like Debbie Does Dallas, maybe. Maybe they're gonna film that. Either way, she's basically gone from the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay. I just didn't care about what was going on. Like, I remember at one point I wrote, "Did something happen?" Because I kind of stopped writing things down.
Yeah, no, this one was hard to take notes on just because nothing was happening.
It was just talking, and the stuff they were talking about didn't really. It just wasn't interesting.
It wasn't very interesting or engaging.
No.
Well, hey, look at it this way. If we do any more Tarantino movies, they won't be worse than this.
True, that's true, but there's some that are longer than this. Like, isn't like Django Unchained 3 hours?
I think it's like 2.5.
It's really long. I know that. And like Inglourious Bastards is pretty long too, isn't it?
Yeah. Hateful Eight extended version's like 4 hours.
The Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was really long. I remember that being really long. Inglourious Bastards like 2.5 hours. Once Upon a Time. Yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was like 2 hours, 41 minutes. He gets excessive sometimes, you know.
Have you seen his cameo in one of the Muppets movies?
You showed me that, yes. That was,
I feel like that's pretty accurate.
Which Muppets movie was that? Was that the Wizard of Oz one?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, and that's like... That's basically what Tarantino acts like in interviews, except he's not swearing as much because it's a Muppets movie.
Yeah.
He's very annoying to watch in interviews. I'll just say that. Kurt Russell like shows up and like tries seeing them with his car. Oh yeah, they like Zoe Bell gets like tied to like the hood of the car while they're driving. I guess because
she's a daredevil. It's just something she likes to do.
he like tries hitting that. They think that he killed her at first, but she survived because she's a stunt woman. At least there something was happening.
Yeah.
That's kind of. I expected there to be more of Kurt Russell like killing people with his car, you know, because that's kind of what the main plot of it was, right? I mean, you know, I thought it'd be sort of like The Hitcher, except he's
running people over.
Yeah, except he's like using his like car to anyway. They kill Kurt Russell. Maybe I also wrote at one point, maybe I'd have liked this movie more if I liked Vanishing Point, because it kind of seemed like he was trying to reference that movie. So anyway, is there anything else to say?
Not really. There's not a lot to talk about with this one.
Yeah, it's just boring. I didn't like it. There didn't seem like much of a plot to it. So anyway, okay. Overall thoughts. Again, parts of it were fun, but overall, I just wasn't that impressed. Planet Terror was a little too focused on damaged genitals for my taste. But it did have some funny parts, and I mean, okay, they embraced the stupidity with that one, so. Death Proof was just dull. They both had, you know what, they had opposite problems for me. Planet Terror for me was a little bit too over the top at points, and Death Proof just was not over the top enough.
Just too subdued.
I know you're not a huge fan of Jackie Brown, and to be fair, I'm not either. Like, it was okay, but far from the best work of Tarantino. But I honestly liked that better than Death Proof.
I think so too. After the rewatch,
I think Death Proof is by far Tarantino's worst movie. Like, it's not even close. Yeah. Like, it's not even close. I think I've seen all of it. I'm pretty sure I've seen all of his movies, and that's definitely the worst one I've seen. There's like other ones I'm like not. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of Inglourious Basterds or Django Unchained, but those are definitely better movies than this, because I think just the anyway. I was actually surprised to learn that there's people who think Death Proof is the better part of this double feature.
Wrong.
Because it was actually worse than I remembered. It was way worse than I remembered it being. That being said, I'm fine with Grindhouse existing because the trailers were very funny, especially
worth it. Yeah,
especially Werewolf Women of the SS and Don't. Those were the funniest ones to me. So this experience wasn't a total waste of time. Did it have to be 3 fucking hours though? Anyway, like I didn't have time to watch anything else that day because this took up so much. Anyway, you can go.
So, Planet Terror, it was my first time watching. So I really came in with no expectations. It was not the movie I thought it was going to be. But once I kind of understood what it was going for, I had a lot of fun with the movie.
I need to ask, I don't know if we talked about this earlier, what did you think Planet Terror was gonna be?
I honestly was So, based off of the title being Planet Terror, I thought it was gonna be some, like, sci-fi movie.
That is actually very fair. Like, yeah.
Like, I thought it was gonna be in, like, space, and she was, like, some prisoner who had a gun for a leg and, like, escaped jail or something. It was entirely not what it ended up being.
So you took the planet part and not the terror part.
Literally.
What did you think the terror was going to be, though? Like, just...
I had no idea.
Because honestly, that movie you're describing, you have that. If you put this in space and then added zombies, honestly, I probably would have liked that more. I probably would have liked that more.
Yeah, well, once I finally got in the groove of the movie, I thought it was pretty fun. It was definitely over top, definitely too long, but I really enjoyed it, and I might make some of my friends sit through that come October.
I mean,
Death Proof.
I guess if I had to watch one of these two movies again, Death Proof. Sorry, not Death Proof. Planet Terror, obviously. I would watch again, not Death Proof.
And then Death Proof was about what I remembered it being. A lot of uninteresting talking, and not enough of the car chases, which were the highlight of the film. There's really not much else I have to say about Death Proof at all beyond that, because it's just a whole lot of nothing happening, really.
I thought it was
and by far the highlight of this whole double feature was the fake trailers.
Yeah, definitely. I might have enjoyed Death Proof even less than you did, actually. It'd probably be about where From Dusk Till Dawn 2 Texas Blood Money is, but which is also pretty bad. But yeah, the trailers were hilarious, so there's that at least.
Yeah.
And maybe I would have liked that better, because, I mean, you had Edgar Wright making one of them. I love Edgar Wright. I think his movies are hilarious. I'm not sure about a feature-length Rob Zombie movie, but, I mean, if it has werewolf women of the SS in it, and Nicolas Cage is Fu
Manchu, then it might be worth it.
That was so ridiculous.
Okay, we're gonna have to wrap up. My cat just threw up.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's a good summation of Death Proof. Do you have anything else to say about these two?
Nah, I think I've said my piece about everything.
Well, our next podcast, thankfully, is a much better movie.
Join us for Total Recall.
Get your ass to Mars.
Until then. Exactly. Get your ass to Mars and go meet Andy Griffith while you're there.
Andy Griffith is on Mars?
He is now.
Okay. I guess there is life on Mars then. Anyway, or well, there used to be, because Andy Griffith passed away, but anyway. Okay, done.
Good night, you stupid idiot. Good night, you miserable slob.